M&A is like kind of like a big term. It can be unpacked in a lot of ways. When should a company think about engaging with an M&A lawyer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think earlier the better. And so a lot of people listening to the podcast probably are venture backed and they've had law firms, throughout their various investment rounds.
Yeah.
And the law firms that you used before for your Series C and your Series A, it might be a great law firm for your M&A exit. It might not, depending on kind of how big a deal and who the acquirer is. But I think a mistake people make is thinking of lawyers as solely like a paper pusher that gets a deal over the line and not bringing the lawyer in early enough for the strategic and business advice. I really think at a minimum, you should hire a lawyer pre-banker engagement. Some people think that like your bank is the party that pushes the deal over the line and they're kind of setting everything up and the lawyer comes in later. But I really think you want your lawyer involved prior to the bank engagement, helping you not only navigate who to hire as a bank, but kind of looking ahead and seeing what type of legal issues could get in the way of a deal, and then advising you through the banker process into deal prep, and then eventually into LOI and deal execution.
That is so key, what you said about talking to someone earlier. And like I had the benefit of working with you on a fundraise before. So like we got like some working reps together. But like I think it's like really hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube on certain terms if you don't get to like scope it out with the lawyer beforehand. And like before signing a term sheet, like you should really float that past somebody to make sure it looks okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even back in your late stage financing rounds, like how you set those up can really affect how your M&A exit looks. How your banker engagement works will affect the economics of your M&A exit. Like issues that lawyers will tell you years before the deal will come back and haunt you in the deal if they're big enough type of issues that haven't been solved correctly. And so I think earlier the better. And I think really it's kind of a mindset. So a lot of people have the mindset that like the lawyer is kind of just a cost and to be minimized. Like you pick up the phone and you're gonna get nickel and dimed. And like I hope to not be that type of lawyer. And I know my colleagues feel the same way,
yeah.
But I think if you don't think of a lawyer that way, you think of a lawyer as a strategic advisor, especially like a good lawyer, as someone who can provide business advice in addition to the legal advice. You're going to kind of create more value for your company in the long run. And
back to like an engagement letter with a bank. So let's go even further back in the life cycle, like not even a term sheet from, an investor who wants to invest with you or the potential acquirer. Like that was key in my position, because you look at it, like this engagement letter could be for 4%, selling price could be for 3%. It's like being like penny wise but pound foolish, not wanting to use a lawyer on that. That could be like massive dollars at the end of the day if you do it wrong.
Massive. And I mean, look, we have great relationships with a ton of banks. They add a ton of great value to the deal, right? So a good bank can mean it can be really, really helpful. A bad bank can really, really hurt your process. I've had like, and even at the engagement letter, a good bank might try to, exert a pound of money out of you without even realizing it, the way the engagement letter is set up. And so even a good bank might try to, the first draft of their engagement letters are probably going to have provisions in there that you don't want to live with. But I mean, I've had clients that like, I think maybe some advice if you're thinking about which bank to hire. Like first, your lawyers have seen all these banks before. And so we can provide, some of our own gut check advice. Even pricing, we keep like at Goodwin a database of banker pricing. And so we have a general idea of what to expect. Best way to get to know you're confident on pricing is to get multiple banks. Like don't fall in love with a banker too soon is advice we always tell our clients. Maybe something that maybe isn't intuitive to a lot of people is you think, oh, if I can get the best bank possible, that's going to be the best for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want the best bank. You don't want the most well-known one, especially if you're lower mid-market or mid-market. They're not going to provide the same level of service as a bank that kind of focuses in that space. And I've seen a client beg for a bad bank before that then just like put them over the coals with the terms. They never could terminate the engagement. They had to pay the bank every quarter, even the bank didn't do anything, and it ended really, really poorly. And so talk to your lawyer early before you hire a bank, and we'll help you get the right one, and together be a team going into the eventual exit.
Well, Trey, even what you were saying about just validating what the structure and the pricing looks like, even if I bring it to you and it says 3% of enterprise value over a certain amount, and you say, no, that checks out. It's helpful like to get a sanity check on it rather than signing it and like hoping it checks out. And then the second thing I was thinking about is like the tail with the bank. Like that can be a killer one of like, oh, well, the deal didn't go through, but I have to work with this bank for the next 2 years if something else does. Having a good lawyer for that part of the process, like that can save you so many headaches.
That's right. Yeah, and like I've said before, I've seen a bank insist that there is no tail. So if forever, 15 years in the future.
No way. I've never heard that.
I've seen it, and you hope it's something a lot shorter. And look, sometimes the bank has reasons why they want a longer tail than a shorter tail, and they'll provide a good argument, and you'll have to evaluate it. But you really want to know what you're signing and have someone help you think through that, because especially if the process doesn't go well and you think the bank's at fault, like it could be the bank ran a good process, but the market was cold, and then you're okay engaging them again. But if the bank didn't do a good enough job and you want to hire someone differently, and you have to pay them 4% even if they don't do anything, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow.
We're going to transition in a sec to talking about like the actual deal when it comes to the buyer, but just like one more astute point on banks that you made, that sometimes you get like starry-eyed, like, I'm making this up. It wasn't actually my scenario, but like, Goldman Sachs wants to work with me, or like JP Morgan wants to work with me. And in the moment, you're like, that's amazing, I'm going to get the A team. But if you're like a smaller company that is not like the whizzes of the world selling to Google, you're probably going to get like their B or C team. And you're probably also not going to get terms that are market for someone who would be like super competitive to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that can happen, and it depends. I think a lot of times the first person on the list is the relationship person that you hire, and that's the person you think you're getting. I think this applies for law firms, accounting firms, every kind of industry, right? But like all these big companies, all these big firms have whole teams, and you want to feel confident that you're getting kind of A-level talent all the way down the chain, because the MD at the bank, if they're not paying attention, right, it's like the associate, the VPs, like, you want really strong people at that level, because they're the ones doing a lot of the legwork on these deals.
Run the Numbers is a mostly LLC production. Yelling an intro by Fat Joe. Artwork by some AI thingamajig. Podcast and video editing is done by Cleancast at cleancast.io. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of me, a guy who feeds his dog too much ice cream and has a history of net operating losses, LOL. If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And also check out mostlymetrics.com. That's my newsletter where I explore business models and financial metrics. Thanks for riding with me. Share this with your friends. Peace.